Costa Rica is a green paradise that hides one of nature's fiercest battles. Although its name suggests peace and beauty, what happens within its jungles, rivers and mountains is a constant struggle for survival. In a territory that occupies just a fraction of the map, this place is home to 5% of all the planet's species, making it one of the most diverse and competitive ecosystems in the world. Here, every corner represents an opportunity or a threat. A puddle may seem harmless, but it could be inhabited by the most poisonous species. A tree can offer shade or hide a lurking hunter. Nothing is completely safe. In Costa Rican nature, each organism fulfills a role, but that role involves facing an unbreakable cycle: eat or be eaten. This country, located in Central America, is recognized for its commitment to conservation and ecotourism. But in its lush landscapes, a war is waged without respite. Every species, from the smallest insect to the most agile feline, must adapt, hunt or defend itself daily. There's no room for weakness or error here. This natural balance, although fascinating to the observer, is sustained by continuous clashes for food, space and dominance. There are no breaks, no second chances. In this wild environment, the competition never ceases. Only the strongest, most cunning and most adaptable make it through another day. Welcome to Costa Rica, where life flourishes amid danger and resilience. Deep in the humid forests of the Caribbean, where the mist embraces the trees and the songs of the jungle awaken at dawn, a fierce, vibrant and often lethal life reigns. Every creature, from the tiniest to the most agile, plays its fundamental role in hunting, defense, and the brutal struggle for survival. There's no respite here, only the constant rhythm of wildlife. Under a moss-covered tree, a red frog remains still. Its small, scarlet body with black spots stands out against the green foliage. Its coloration is not friendly, but a warning sign. It is poisonous and should not be touched. The silence of the jungle is interrupted by the rustling of dry leaves. From the undergrowth, a young coati lurks, curious about that crimson flash in the shadows. I've never seen anything like it, so bright, so provocative. He slides cautiously, his eyes fixed on the tiny amphibian, unaware of the danger. He takes one more step and then another. The frog remains still, as if it knows it doesn't need to flee. It just waits. The coati swipes out its paw. It misses the frog, but grazes its wet skin with the tip of its snout. The frog hops away, disappearing among the roots, leaving an imperceptible amount of moisture behind. For the first few minutes, the coati feels nothing. Then, its breathing becomes labored. It begins to stagger. A stinging, tingling sensation runs through its snout, then its throat, then its legs. He tries to retrace his steps, but his muscles no longer respond as they once did. He collapses at the foot of the same tree where he found the frog. His eyes flicker in confusion as his body weakens. There's no blood. There are no wounds. Just a poison that works silently, disabling your body, cell by cell. From the high branches, a capuchin monkey, also watching the spectacle, decides to quietly move away. He has learned to fear that intense red. Others haven't been so lucky. That night, under the light rain that dampens the jungle, the frog returns to its hiding place among the leaves. Its mission is not to hunt, but to survive. It doesn't attack. It only defends itself with what nature has given it. This amphibian, which barely fits in the palm of a leaf, possesses a lethal poison that runs through its skin like invisible armor. After a nearly intense night, his day begins early, when the humidity is denser and the ground still retains the coolness of the night. He cautiously hops among fallen leaves, searching for small insects, his main source of food. Although tiny, she is an effective hunter. Her lightning-fast tongue catches the unwary. And their sense of territory is as fierce as their venom. If another frog dares to cross their path, a confrontation is imminent. Among their kind, there is no room for compassion. If necessary, they will fight to the death for a piece of damp land. Not far away in the high branches of an almond tree, a group of capuchin monkeys begins their morning routine. Their movements are agile and precise. Among them, there are marked hierarchies, invisible alliances that define who eats first and who sleeps in the best spots in the tree. But beyond their games and strategies, there is one fundamental task: protecting their young. Mothers carry their young on their backs, their ever-alert eyes scanning the canopy for threats. From tree snakes to birds of prey, the dangers never cease. In groups, these primates have one advantage: their intelligence. They coordinate attacks, warn each other with high-pitched screeches, and even throw branches or fruit to scare off intruders. While adults search for ripe fruit and larvae hidden under the bark, the young learn by imitation. Every observed gesture, every well-timed jump, is a lesson in survival. The dry tropical forest where they live can be generous, but also unforgiving. In times of drought, they must travel long distances, seeking streams that still hold water and trees that haven't depleted their food supply. High in the rainforest, where the light barely filters through the leaves, this family of white-faced monkeys moves nimbly through the branches. The mother, named Aluna, carries her baby clinging to her back, while her two other young, Kira and Timo, play nearby. The group, led by the dominant male, moves cautiously, always alert to the dangers lurking in the thicket. A jaguar, hidden in the undergrowth, watches intently. It knows that capuchins are difficult prey, but the opportunity to hunt a cub motivates it to wait for the right moment. Its patience is infinite and its stealth lethal. As the capuchins search for food, a rustling sound breaks the silence. Aluna stops, her senses on alert. She lets out a soft growl, a warning signal to the group. The other monkeys gather around, alert for any movement. The predator, aware that it has been detected, decides to wait. After a few hours, the tension seems to dissipate. The capuchins resume their activities, albeit cautiously. The jaguar, without losing sight of its prey, moves stealthily, looking for a better position. Suddenly, a shrill cry breaks the calm. The jaguar has attacked, but its leap is forestalled by the capuchins, who scatter in all directions. Aluna, carrying her cub on her back, runs toward the highest treetops, while Kira and Timo follow close behind. The frustrated jaguar watches as his prey escapes once more. The jungle once again falls silent. The jaguar, covered in mud and starved of food, slowly retreats, aware that hunting isn't always successful. Sometimes the day ends with an empty stomach and claws covered in mud, not blood. Not far from there, in the wetlands near a swamp hidden by tall grass, lurks another feared animal, a group of alligators. Their semi-submerged bodies seem like part of the landscape. Only their eyes peek out, watching. They wait for hours, days if necessary, until thirsty prey comes too close to drink. And when it does, the attack is devastating. Nearby, on the mud and root-covered shore, a mother alligator is tending her nest. A few days ago, the eggs hatched, and now dozens of hatchlings are swimming clumsily in the murky water. Not all of them will survive. Threats lurk from the sky and underwater: hungry herons, stealthy snakes, and even other young alligators that don't distinguish between prey and kin. But the mother keeps watch. She circles the water without straying far, striking loudly when something approaches, and when the shadows lengthen, her young climb onto her back, where warmth and maternal instinct offer them the only possible refuge. At the other end of the forest, high in the canopy, this small family of primates begins their morning routine. Aluna, the adult female, with her watchful gaze, firmly guides her 3 children. The smallest one clings to his back, asleep, while Kira and Timo, more restless, jump between branches with nervous laughter and unstoppable energy. The group they belong to has already begun to move. They're looking for fruit, insects, and tender leaves. But today the heat is setting in early, and their priority is another: finding water. The only nearby source is the swamp, a dangerous and treacherous swamp teeming with alligators. Even so, the risk is part of everyday life. They advance among vines and bark. Aluna keeps her children close. Kira tries to follow the young male of the group, but the mother stops her with a low growl. Timo, more impulsive, throws a rotten fruit that falls into the water, something imprudent since a small noise can attract the attention of any empty stomach. Immediately the forest falls silent. Aluna tenses. There are no songs. Crickets cling to the silence. Only the distant murmur of still water. Then, out of the mud by the shore, something moves. Slowly. Lethal. The alligator, the same one he's been watching for hours, moves without a sound. Only its eyes protrude. A short signal breaks the tension. One of the greater capuchins emits a high-pitched squeal, a warning signal. The group bursts into action. Leaves and branches tremble. Aluna picks up Timo with a jerk and climbs with him through the trees. Kira climbs clumsily, looking back. The giant reptile charges, but the bank empties in seconds. From the safety of the canopy, Aluna gathers them together. She strokes her youngest, who wakes with a start. She looks at Kira, who is trembling but unharmed, and Timo, who stares at her in amazement. At that moment there are no reproaches, only the certainty that today they have escaped alive. Motherhood in the jungle allows no respite. Not far away, in the shade of a banana leaf gleaming with the damp dawn, a tiny heart beats vigorously. It's this red, bulging-eyed frog, vibrant like a living flame in the thicket. Her body, barely the size of a coin, trembles slightly as she makes sure her nest is intact. She chose a leaf hanging over a small pond, a natural mirror reflecting the overcast sky. There she laid a string of eggs, gelatinous pearls containing life in its most fragile form. And while for many this would be the final page of her mission, for her it's only the beginning of a silent war. She's barely finished inspecting the nest when a rustling in the foliage alerts her. She flattens herself against the leaf, motionless, camouflaged by her surroundings. A green snake, as thin as a living rope, slithers between the branches. Its tongue probes the air. It's not looking for the frog, at least not yet. It's looking for the sweet delicacy represented by the eggs. With a swift, deadly leap, the amphibian launches itself directly at the reptile's head. It's an act of sheer courage, perhaps even madness. The snake, bewildered, retreats for a moment, hissing. He didn't expect any resistance. The red frog, with its skin riddled with natural toxins, isn't easy prey. But he knows this enemy will return. The next day, the battle for survival continues. This time, a white heron swoops down, its eyes sharp and its beak as sharp as a spear. The frog barely has time to hide in the leaf litter, waiting in terror as the bird peers down at the pool beneath its nest. The young haven't been born yet, but they will soon. And when they do, they'll fall straight into the water, the very place where predators lurk. The nights are even worse. The noises multiply. Something is lurking in the reeds. A raccoon, curious and hungry, has smelled the jelly. The frog, exhausted, remains motionless, relying on its small size to go unnoticed. This time it works. The mammal leaves, but it leaves behind a painful lesson. The jungle doesn't sleep, and neither can she allow it to. It will stay that way for a week until the eggs hatch. Finally, one hot and humid morning, the eggs begin to tremble. The bubbles of life burst one by one, revealing tiny tadpoles wriggling clumsily. Some fall immediately into the water. Others cling to the leaf as if they know the world below is about to devour them. The mother hops from leaf to leaf, guiding her babies toward the puddle. She can't carry them in her arms. He can only escort them, watch over them, and warn them of the dangers. One of them, the smallest, gets caught in a strand of moss. The frog returns, frees him with his front legs, and watches him slowly descend into the water. From the nearby swamp, the alligator's eyes follow everything without moving. For it, these small creatures don't represent food, but their presence attracts others. And where there is movement, there is opportunity. A larger toad approaches, intent on devouring the tadpoles. The mother, without hesitation, pounces on it. In the struggle, a tadpole is swept away by the current. The mother can't keep up. Her heart is racing. She has lost one, but it must continue. Nature doesn't allow pauses. Day after day, the mother remains near the pond. She watches as the babies develop legs and begin to hop clumsily among the floating leaves. One of them, the weakest at birth, has now become the most agile. She follows it with her eyes, not with favoritism, but with hope. One afternoon, a heron returns. This time it sees her. It launches itself furiously across the water, causing the chicks to scatter like raindrops. The mother steps in, leaps toward the bird's beak, and while it doesn't harm her, it manages to knock her off course. A shriek pierces the air. Another chick has disappeared beneath the heron's wings. The silence that follows hurts. There are only 5 left. There were more than 20 at the beginning, but the frog doesn't stop. He guides them to new, deeper pools with more cover. The days pass, and her children begin to explore without her, jumping farther, hiding better. One even catches its first insect. The mother watches from the shadows silently, and then one morning, she's not there. Not because she's fled, but because she's fulfilled her mission. Her body can't take it anymore. The jungle envelops her, hiding her among roots and leaves. Her offspring, now young frogs, continue on their journey. Their skin bears the fiery red color of their mother, and in their instincts, the story of a struggle that began before their first leap. High above in the tortuguero treetops, a pair of toucans takes turns feeding their chicks. Inside the nest, hidden in a tree cavity, their open beaks beg for food. One parent returns with carefully harvested fruit, while the other keeps watch. The process is delicate, keeping the young fed without giving away the nest's location. A predator could be nearby. This duo isn't a new couple. They met during the dry season when the fruit trees began to ripen and the jungle became a festival of aromas. He arrived first, a male toucan with a colorful curved beak larger than his mate, with a more vibrant yellow patch on his chest. Males tend to be slightly more robust and have a slightly longer beak, although the difference can be easily overlooked. Sometimes it's behavior that reveals more than appearance. The courtship was brief but curious. For several days he offered her fruit, leaped from branch to branch, and made a soft whistle that broke the murmur of the forest. She accepted the offerings with reservations, carefully observing each gesture. When they finally got close enough to share the same tree for several hours, it was clear the bond had been sealed. These birds, while not always monogamous for life, often form pairs that cooperate intensely during the breeding season. After several inspection flights, they selected a cavity in a mountain almond tree. The hole wasn't too deep, but it was well hidden by dense leaves. Toucans don't excavate their own nests, but rather use natural cavities or those abandoned by other animals, such as woodpeckers. Once the area was secured, the female laid between 2 and 4 white eggs, small in comparison to the size of the parents. They incubated them in turns with almost millimetric care for about 16 days. The chick's birth was silent. Unlike other birds, baby toucans are born blind, featherless, and with a soft beak that grows slowly. For the first few weeks, they depend entirely on their parents, who alternate bringing them food. Fruits such as figs, guavas, and berries constitute their main diet, although they do not hesitate to supplement their diet with insects, small reptiles, or other birds' eggs when needed. One of the most critical moments occurs around the 3rd week, when the chicks begin to open their eyes and make sounds. Although they can't yet fly, their instinct to move makes them visible and vulnerable. In the Costa Rican rainforest, tree snakes, capuchin monkeys, and birds of prey like the red-necked falcon pose constant threats. Therefore, parents only approach the nest when they are certain there is no suspicious movement nearby. It was a busy day, just after a heavy rain. The male returned with a large quantity of palm fruit. He perched on the highest branch of the tree and waited. He was alert. In the last few hours, a green snake had been seen slithering near the trunk. The female, still inside the nest, responded with a soft croak. It was safe. With a nimble leap, the male descended and began feeding the chicks, carefully placing pieces into their quivering beaks. The days passed, and the little toucans began to show their first signs of independence. They now had feathers, and their beaks, though still disproportionately large for their bodies, were beginning to harden. At 6 weeks old, one of the most advanced chicks peeked over the edge of the nest, gazing into the green abyss surrounding it. It wasn't ready to fly yet, but the impulse was there. The parents watched from above. They knew they would soon have to push a little to get their young to leave the nest. Nature doesn't wait. To survive, they must fly, and to glide, they must take risks. One morning recently, without warning, one of the chicks took off. It was a short, clumsy, and uncontrolled flight. It landed on a low branch, and from there it squealed. The male descended quickly, perching nearby. He didn't touch it, didn't help it. He just watched. It was part of the learning process. The little toucan needed several attempts to return to a safe position. The female from the nest watched without intervening. By the time they reached 9 weeks old, all the chicks had fledged the nest and were able to glide between nearby trees. Their parents still fed them occasionally, but gradually encouraged them to seek their own food. It was a silent farewell. Soon, the young people would seek their own roots, their own trees, their own courtship rituals. That year, the toucan pair successfully raised 3 chicks. This isn't always the case. Sometimes the jungle demands more than it offers. Whether predators, food shortages, or territorial attacks from other birds can scupper any hope. But this time, the story was different. Thanks to the constant collaboration between the male and female, their strategic choice of nest, and their tireless vigilance, their young survived. Very soon, perhaps in a year or two, some of those young toucans will return to the trees of Tortuguero, looking for cavities where they can continue their cycle. The parents, for their part, have already begun preparing for a new season. The jungle never stops. New fruits ripen, courtship songs resonate in the distance, and the treetops once again become the scene of silent alliances and colorful dances. A few meters away, in another tree in the forest, there is another younger pair of toucans also breeding. Unlike the experienced pair, these are first-time parents. They recently found a suitable cavity and are now caring for 3 eggs. Although they have chosen a good spot, they are still learning to coordinate. Sometimes one of them wanders off too long looking for food, or they become nervous if they hear noises near the nest. They don't always know whether to go in or wait, and this makes them hesitate. However, they are gradually learning how to take turns and what types of fruit are best. The male returns with food, although sometimes it's not quite ripe, and the female spends more time inside, checking the nest and arranging the eggs. It's a new process for both of them. They learn with each passing day, observing their environment and reacting to every change. Maybe not all of their eggs will hatch, but the important thing is that they've already begun the journey. In time, like others before them, they'll improve and be better prepared to care for their future offspring. A short distance away, hidden among the dense vegetation, a group of capuchin monkeys moves silently. Their dark, curious eyes scan the canopy. They are natural opportunists, intelligent, agile, and strategic. The alpha female, old and astute, has lived through many seasons. She leads with experience, and today she has detected something interesting, the nervous pacing of the toucans. One of the youngest primates, Aluna's offspring, an impulsive and hungry male, quickly climbs the trunk. His mother watches from a lower branch, carrying her still furless baby on her chest. The little one has barely opened his eyes, but he is already condemned to the constant struggle for survival. The young male stops. From his perch, he sees the nest. He hears the soft cries of the chicks and smells the sweet scent of fresh fruit. Their instincts kick in. There's not just food, there's protein, eggs, an invaluable source of energy for the group, especially for nursing mothers and growing pups. The alpha female, Aluna's relative, approaches. She looks at the nest carefully. The tree is tall, access is difficult, but the risk is worth it. Her young already have teeth, but they still depend on her milk. She needs nutrients. Meanwhile, in the nest, the toucans are feeling the strain. The father perches nearby, alerting with a high-pitched call. The mother inside covers the chicks with her body. They have no way to defend themselves except their beaks and courage. It's not enough against an organized group of capuchins. The assault is swift. The capuchins move like shadows through the branches, approaching from various angles. The father toucan lets out desperate screeches and tries to attack with his large, curved beak. He manages to scare off the first one, but another surprises him from behind. He loses his balance and flies in circles, never getting too far away. The nest is left vulnerable. The alpha female arrives first. She puts her hand into the cavity. The mother toucan, desperate, tries to bite her. There is a brief struggle. The female pushes, kicks, scratches. In a matter of seconds, she takes an egg from the nest and walks away along the branch. She holds it gently, as if it were a treat. A second capuchin follows her and takes another. Inside the nest, a single chick survives. The injured mother covers it with her wing. The father returns in despair. Both toucans make heart-rending sounds, but there's nothing they can do. The damage is done. On another branch, the capuchins celebrate. The alpha female breaks the egg and drinks its contents. Her youngster lets out hungry squeals. She offers it some, smearing its mouth with the warm liquid. The youngster, though he doesn't understand what's happening, feeds. The toucan egg now nourishes a different life. Days pass. The group of capuchins continues its life. They hunt insects, eat fruit, and care for the young. The alpha female's offspring, stronger thanks to that stolen protein, begins to move with more energy, its eyes open. It observes the vibrant green world around it. It will never know the price another paid for its food. At the top of the tree, the toucan nest is silent. Only one chick survived. The mother doesn't leave it alone for a moment. The father is constantly searching for food. The loss was painful, but in the jungle there's no time to grieve. You have to move on. The little toucan grows. Its plumage begins to color. Its beaks lengthen. The parents, although more cautious, take turns feeding it again. They don't approach the edge of the nest. They've learned their lesson. Meanwhile, the capuchins have also learned. They now know the location of several nests in the forest. They repeat the strategy, but they also face risks. One day, one of the youngsters falls while escaping with an egg. The fall is fatal. Its mother descends and finds it motionless. She smells it. She touches it. Then she leaves. In the forest, there is no time to bury or mourn. That same night, a jaguar passes by. It sniffs the body and drags it through the bushes. In the darkness, the jungle never rests. Days later, the young bird takes his first leap out of the nest. His wings are still weak, but his first-time parents encourage him. They watch him closely. Every short flight is a victory. He doesn't know how close he came to death. He doesn't know that his brother's scent was what attracted the capuchins. He only knows that he must fly, and fast. In another corner of the forest, a new female capuchin gives birth. 2 babies are born. One is weak. The mother cuddles it, but soon realizes it won't survive. With a heavy heart, she lets it go. The other clings tightly to her breast. She looks up at it. She'll do anything to protect it. Thus, the jungle continues, between beauty and tragedy, between life and death. At La Selva Biological Station, where biodiversity explodes in every corner, the balance is as fragile as it is fascinating. The cycle of life repeats itself over and over. Birth, foraging, avoiding hunting, protecting the young, and when the time is right, returning to the fertile soil, returning nutrients to the forest to feed others. Here, every creature, no matter how small or large, plays a role. Leafcutter ants carry pieces of vegetation to their underground nests where they grow the fungi they feed on. Their work seems insignificant, but without them, the forest would collapse. Bats pollinate night flowers, allowing new trees to grow. Jaguars control populations and maintain the natural balance. In this Central American region, wildlife lives at a rapid pace. Rainfall appears unexpectedly, altering the forest's dynamics. The animals react, frogs jump nimbly, monkeys take cover, and birds raise their calls. At dusk, new actors take the stage. Fireflies glow in the gloom as owls begin their search for prey. Frogs croak to mate or defend their habitat, and predators like ocelots and boas emerge from their shelters. The cycle repeats itself, but the goal is the same: survival. There are no good guys or bad guys, only adaptive strategies. In places like the Corcovado rainforest, this display of nature reaches its maximum expression. The sun barely touches the treetops deep in Corcovado National Park. The thick, humid air of dawn caresses the leaves as a faint murmur of life awakens. Amid the low mist and the distant chirping of birds, a nimble and silent body glides through the bushes. It is the invisible hunter of the Costa Rican jungle, the puma. With dark brown fur that blends with the damp earth, he moves stealthily. His padded paws make no sound. The forest is still yawning when he has already located his possible prey. A small group of white-tailed deer grazing in the undergrowth. There's no room for error. The carnivorous animal crouches, its muscles tense like springs, and when everything is aligned, it attacks. The race lasts only a few seconds. A powerful leap, a precise charge, and the jungle falls silent again. That morning, the puma feeds. His instinct tells him to take advantage. He isn't always successful, and the days without hunting are many. But this isn't just the story of a solitary predator. Not far away, among twisted roots and fallen leaves, 3 cubs await him. They're barely 2 months old and already feeling hungry. One of them, the smallest, moans softly. She doesn't understand the world yet, but she senses the emptiness in her stomach. Her older sister tries to comfort her with a soft purr, while the third explores the edge of the hiding place, curious about the sounds of the forest. Weeks ago, deep in the same Costa Rican forest, the mother of the cubs went hunting. She was a young female, strong and silent. She knew the paths, the scents in the air, the prey worth the effort, but she also knew her enemies. One humid dawn, she left without looking back. The little ones were still asleep, barely a bundle of warmth and heartbeats. Hunger drove her beyond her usual territory, into areas she avoided out of caution. It was there that her destiny took a turn. The scent was clear, an old tapir, perhaps sick, moving clumsily in a clearing. Easy to hunt, but what he didn't detect in time was the jaguar's trail, newer and stronger. By the time the mother cubs pounced on her prey, it was too late. From the shadows, the big spotted cat emerged with lightning speed. The confrontation was brutal. The jaguar was heavier, more aggressive, but she didn't give up. She fought with claws, fangs, and courage. The roar of both animals shook the highest branches, but in the end, the opponent's strength was superior. Wounded and bleeding, the mother managed to drag her body away. She couldn't reach her babies. Somewhere in the forest, she fell beneath a fern, where her breathing became shallow and her gaze was lost in the fog of unconsciousness. And so his den fell silent. The puma, an adult male, is not his father. It's not customary for males to raise cubs that aren't their own, but something in him changed when he found them. Perhaps it was the smell of other people's blood in the empty burrow, the wailing of the young, or the memory of her own cubs that she once lost. It wasn't easy to accept them. For days, he watched them from a distance. I watched them cry, huddled together, trembling. At first, I thought about leaving them, but every time he killed prey, something inside him drove him to return to the same place, to leave it close by. Until one night, he didn't leave. Since then, he protects them. He hunts for them. The deer caught today will be their salvation, at least for a while, but danger always lurks. With effort, he drags the body to a hidden clearing, not far from the makeshift shelter where the cubs are sleeping. His snout is bleeding, not from his own wounds, but from contact with the still warm flesh of his prey. Before you leave, look around. A jaguar could be lurking, or a pack of coyotes attracted by the scent. When he's assured there are no immediate threats, he heads for the shelter. The babies greet him with weak but excited meows. They don't understand hunting strategies, but they associate his presence with safety and food. He lies down beside them for a moment. He licks their backs, a gesture that isn't usual for a male, but one that has become part of his routine. Then, one by one, he gently leads them to the prey. It's a dangerous journey, but a necessary one. Halfway there, something interrupts his walk, a creaking sound, branches, a strange smell. He stops dead in his tracks, tucking the babies under him and looks closely. An ocelot, more curious than brave, appears among the vegetation. It's not a direct threat, but it is a sign. The scent of the carcass has begun to attract visitors. If they don't hurry, they'll miss it. The puma lets out a deep, low growl, and the ocelot vanishes. But he knows he won't be the only one. Time is running out. Finally, they reach the clearing. The babies pounce on the meat, clumsy, trying to bite without quite knowing how. He doesn't help them. He needs them to learn. He watches them with a mixture of patience and urgency. His golden eyes never leave his surroundings. The shadows between the trees seem to move. A vulture circles overhead. They eat enough to satisfy themselves. Then, one by one, they curl up under her belly. The male hasn't yet taken a bite, not out of nobility, but out of strategy. He knows the scent of blood is an open invitation, and he's the only one who can defend what's left. He can't afford to waver. Then the threat materializes. In the distance, he hears the howl of coyotes, not one, but several. They're approaching. His instinct tells him he can't face them with the pups there. There are too many of them. They might steal his food. Even worse, they might hurt the young. He must decide. With a leap, he puts himself between the corpse and the rising sounds. The wind shifts and the howls cease. Perhaps they've sensed his presence. Perhaps they're still hesitating. He stands firm, muscles tense, prepared for the worst. But luck favors him this time. The coyotes don't appear. Perhaps they've sought easier prey. Perhaps they've been content with the scent. Whatever the case, the critical moment has passed. For now. Only then does the male allow himself to eat. His bites are precise, quick, but not desperate. He knows he must fill his stomach if he wants to continue hunting for others. The young are already dozing, exhausted, under some nearby roots. He eats urgently, without gluttony, because he knows that at any moment another predator, or even a scavenger, may discover him. While the mountain scene is filled with silence and secrecy, on the plains of Santa Rosa, something very different is heard, a howl, high-pitched, persistent, a kind of call that is soon answered. Another howl and then another. It's not a solitary song, it's a conversation. It's the voice of a group that lives, hunts and survives together, the coyotes. In Costa Rica, these cunning canines have adapted to all types of terrain, from the dry forests of the north to the mountainous areas of the Central Valley. They are natural explorers, opportunists par excellence. Where there's food, there are coyotes. And this morning, an adult pair is leading the search. They have 3 small cubs, still too young to keep up with the group, so they have been temporarily left in a burrow under a hollow log, camouflaged among dry leaves. As they move in a group, the alpha male raises his snout and sniffs the air. A rabbit has recently passed by. Fresh tracks in the damp earth confirm this. The female follows closely behind, with an almost imperceptible gesture, while the others fan out, covering more ground. They are slender, but not weak. Their apparent fragility hides an admirable capacity for resilience. When prey appears, the group coordinates in a dance of pursuit and encirclement. They don't need brute force. Their weapon is strategy. Once they manage to catch the rabbit, there's no dispute. There's no internal fighting. They feed according to a hierarchy, and the babies, when they return to the burrow, will receive food regurgitated by their mother. Unlike the puma, these canids live in society. Their survival depends on cooperation. They look out for each other, take turns guarding, and help raise babies. There's no room for ego. Sometimes on full moon nights, these animals belonging to the dog family howl in unison. It's not just a territorial call, it's a reaffirmation of unity. Here we are that resonates among the trees, and far away, hidden among the high branches of a tree, a puma listens. It doesn't respond. It has no need. Its power lies in silence. Both species, distinct in their lifestyles, share the same destiny, the constant struggle for survival. While the puma glides in the shadows, avoiding unnecessary encounters, the coyote moves through the undergrowth with alert eyes and open ears. But neither is exempt from risks. Just when the silence of the territory seems unchanged, the puma detects the unthinkable, the trail of another pair. A younger, stronger adult male has crossed its territory. That changes everything. The boundaries, once clear, are now blurred. A confrontation could cost it its life, but there's something more important than dominance, the offspring. He decides to back down. He changes course. Sometimes self-preservation outweighs pride. Meanwhile, in a wooded area near the coast, coyotes find the remains of a young deer, abandoned by some large predator. Perhaps a jaguar, perhaps a puma. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that there's food. They approach cautiously, smelling every inch. If it's a trap, they'll know. If it's fresh carrion, they'll take advantage of it. Nothing is wasted. Their role in the ecosystem is clear: to balance, recycle, even so. The seeds of the fruits they eat will germinate in their feces, giving new life to the forest. The jungle, far from being a chaotic place, is a precise mechanism. Every movement, every hunt, every baby cared for is part of an ancient cycle. A delicate balance maintained by the instinctive wisdom of its inhabitants. The mammal, solitary and elegant. The coyote, social and versatile. Both are survivors. Both are guardians of a territory that breathes through them. The pack surrounding the deer carcass is led by Shadow, a strong and experienced female. Her dark fur and stern gaze make her a feared and respected figure. Beside her, Bruma, her eldest daughter, cautiously observes the surroundings while 3 puppies play near the roots of a fallen tree. They don't yet understand the importance of this meal, of this moment, but they are learning. They are always learning. The adults tear the meat with precision. Shadow doesn't allow unnecessary fights. Order is vital. On an empty stomach, the warm meat is comforting and strengthening. But that momentary calm is interrupted by a strange wind, a mixture of familiar and unfamiliar aromas. Bruma perks up her ears. Then a guttural growl pierces the air. Another pack is approaching. From the west, 7 coyotes emerge from the bushes, led by Risco, a burly male with an old scar on his back. He doesn't need words. His mere presence is a declaration. They've crossed the border. What was once their territory was taken away from them by the growth of the other pack, by scarcity, by pressure from large predators. Now they want to return, or maybe they never left at all. Shadow takes the lead, his body tense, his gaze fixed. The pups are pushed toward a hollow in the tree's roots. Mist covers them with her body. The tension is as thick as the morning mist. Risco takes a step forward, 2 of his bucks grunt. The deer meat is still among the carcasses. It smells of defiance, of wounded pride, of hunger. "This place belongs to us," one of Risco's young males growls, demanding. "They've crossed the river line. They've taken too much." Shadow doesn't respond immediately. He doesn't need to justify his presence. The forest doesn't belong to anyone, but whoever defends it, whoever understands it, has a right to it. Still, he knows that violence is inevitable. The balance of the jungle is also maintained by conflicts that purge weakness and redefine boundaries. Then he lets out a howl. It's not in fear, it's not in supplication. It's a warning. The battle begins in seconds. No spectacular roars, no speeches, just fangs, leaps, bites, dust, blood, muffled growls. Shadow goes straight for Cliff. They collide with the violence of accumulated history. He goes for her neck, but she twists, bites his shoulder, and pushes him against a tree trunk. The other adults engage in their own fights. 2 shadow males fall under the weight of their rivals. One of them gets up, wounded but alive. The other doesn't. Bruma is forced into combat when a young male attempts to approach the cub's hiding place. She intercepts him in time, tearing at his face. Her strength is pure protective rage. If she falls, the cubs will be lost. Meanwhile, the cubs are trembling. One of them, the smallest, named Echo, escapes from hiding and runs toward his mother. His instinct doesn't yet understand fear. He only recognizes her figure amidst the chaos. Cliff and Shadow continue to struggle. Both are covered in blood and mud, but Shadow has something Cliff lost long ago, a purpose. She's not fighting just for territory. She's fighting for her young, for continuity, for balance. With a final effort, he bites Risco's neck and holds him down. He struggles, but his legs fail. Silence suddenly falls. The others stop. The leader has fallen, not dead, but defeated. Shadow lets go of Cliff and walks away, breathing heavily. He looks at her for a moment and then turns around. One by one, his followers do the same. The war is over. For now. Bruma picks up Echo and takes him back to the shelter. His legs are shaking. The puppy doesn't understand why his mother is crying as she licks his face. But he's safe. That's all that matters. Shadow's cubs have seen the harshness of the world before their time. But they have also seen the strength of the pack. The jungle will test them again, again, and again. The jaguar still lurks in the shadows. Hunger will return. Borders will change. But today, they have endured. And so, as the sun begins to filter through the high branches and the carcasses are picked over by insects and lesser scavengers, Shadow sits beside his pack, still panting but standing. He watches the forest, listens to its pulse. Both are survivors. Both are guardians of a territory that breathes through them. Night falls and darkness takes over the landscape. The feline returns to patrolling its area, its gaze fixed on the undergrowth. The cubs are fast asleep, still unaware of the world that awaits them. These mammals, on the other hand, gather by the river, their silhouettes barely visible in the moonlight. They eat, play, and keep watch. There's no complete rest, but there's a kind of harmony. Costa Rica is a wild place, not an idealized one. It's an environment where survival, competition, adaptive strategies, and reproduction define the lives of species. Every day brings new challenges, and every night means overcoming another. In this environment, the sounds of animals, roars, howls, and stealthy footsteps communicate more than any words. As long as these species exist, their life cycle will continue to unfold in the jungle, plains, and other ecosystems, even though many remain hidden from view. But wildlife doesn't just live in forests and grasslands. It also exists in the oceans, where other predators and prey play their part in the natural balance. In the warm waters of the Costa Rican Caribbean, the sun barely rises above the horizon when a dark green silhouette slowly glides between the waves. A majestic and silent green turtle emerges for a few seconds to take a breath. Then, with calm determination, it descends back toward the reefs. There, on the seafloor, it finds seagrass beds that it tears with its strong beak. Day after day, it repeats this cycle: swim, feed, rest, migrate. For years, their lives unfold like this, guided by ancestral instincts and invisible signals floating in the current. But there comes a moment, signaled by the warmth of the water and the internal call of the reproductive cycle, when their behavior changes. In the open sea, the males surround her. They court her, swim around her, and after a silent but firm ritual, mating occurs. In these deep waters, far from the coast, the next generation is born. After mating, the female doesn't lay eggs immediately. For weeks, she moves toward coastal areas, feeding intensively. Her body prepares for the monumental effort to come. After about 6 weeks, the eggs are ready. Then, driven by a map engraved inside, she heads for the same beaches where years before she herself emerged as a hatchling. Night falls on the Costa Rican coast. The tide rises and the moon casts its reflection on the waves. From the dark sea, this reptile appears among the foam. With slow, determined movements, he drags his heavy body across the sand. The footprints he leaves behind soon fade under the wind and the ebb and flow of the tide. It looks for a place where the sand is moist, firm, but not compacted. There it begins to dig, first with its front paws to create a depression where its body will fit, and then with its hind paws, with millimeter precision, it digs a deep, narrow hole. One by one, the eggs fall out wrapped in a flexible shell. There must be more than 100 of them. Once the nesting process is complete, she carefully covers the nest. With her fins, she pushes sand, concealing the hole, and in doing so, she also buries some of her energy. The task has taken hours of effort. However, there is no hesitation in his actions. With the same serenity with which he arrived, he turns his body and heads toward the water. The waves welcome her like an old visitor. Her silhouette once again blends with the marine night. Meanwhile, on the damp sand, the eggs remain hidden, incubated by the warmth of the sun and the earth. It will take about 8 weeks for the tiny hatchlings to hatch and embark on their own journey to the sea. They don't stop to observe the fruit of their efforts. They return to the ocean without looking back. Beneath the sand, another story begins. Hidden from the world and the sound of the waves, a new generation sleeps wrapped in fragile shells. For weeks, the heat of the sun penetrates the sand and defines the fate of those who have yet to see the light. Amidst the silence, sometimes interrupted by the chirping of night crickets or the creaking of a branch, life moves on without witnesses. One evening, under the orange sky, the sand begins to move. Small heads timidly peek out. They are barely formed creatures with dark eyes and tiny legs. They push hard, one on top of the other, until the first one breaks the layer of sand and feels the air on her face for the first time. Behind her, a tide of sisters follows. There are more than 80 of them, and all have the same goal, the sea. The race begins. Guided by the faint shimmer of the ocean reflecting the moonlight, the tiny green turtles glide with difficulty. Every inch they travel is a battle. Their bodies weren't made to walk on sand, they were born to swim. But that first journey, short in distance but immense in meaning, will decide his destiny. The seemingly peaceful beach is actually a battlefield. From above, a pair of shadows glide silently. They are birds. As soon as they detect movement, they swoop down. A screech cuts through the air and a hatchling disappears between the sharp claws. The others, as if sensing danger in the wind, accelerate. Further ahead, among the bushes, a raccoon's eyes glow. It emerges from its hiding place, sniffs the sand and chooses a victim. It picks it up like a toy and with a swift bite ends its life. Ghost crabs also join the feast, waiting for one to stray from the path so they can catch it with their claws. Amidst this chaos, one tiny turtle struggles more than the others. It was born in the deepest part of the nest and was the last to emerge. Its shell is still soft and its movements are clumsy. The hot sand burns her paws, but she doesn't stop. Around her, the world seems to move faster. She passes by the remains of her sisters, but doesn't look at them. Her only guide is that roaring, salty horizon, the sea. A wave crashes nearby and wets the sand. The hatchlings who have already arrived are gently carried by the water, as if the ocean were welcoming them tenderly. But many are still left behind. From the edge of the jungle, a coral snake slithers through the vegetation. Its body is agile and silent. It emerges into the clearing of the beach, its tongue dancing in the air, and within seconds finds its prey. With a precise bite, it immobilizes a calf. Then, slowly, it slithers away with its catch, snaking across the sand. The tiny turtle, the weakest of all, moves forward. A white heron lands in front of it. The bird's legs are slender but firm. Its neck curves like a whip. This skilled swimmer remains still, knowing she's been spotted. The bird approaches slowly, gauging its attack. In a second that seems eternal, fate falters. But an unexpected wave reaches her feet and scares her. The heron retreats. The reptile takes advantage of that moment and runs. It accelerates like never before. The water is closer now. The salty scent envelops her. She can hear the sound of the waves breaking, calling to her. To her right, a sister falls trapped in a deep drop. She thrashes, tries to get out, but can't. The little girl sees her, hesitates for a second, but continues. There's nothing she can do. A final wave, larger than the previous ones, forms on the horizon. It crashes onto the shore with force and sweeps everything in its path away. The little girl feels lifted, that her body no longer weighs. For a moment, she thinks she's flown. Then the water envelops her. It's cold, salty, immense. Her body reacts instinctively. She moves her legs and feels herself floating. At the bottom of the sea, larger shadows await. Young sharks, large fish, and other predators who know this is an annual feast. Some turtles, exhausted from the race, can't swim strongly enough and are caught. Others get lost, disoriented. But the little one, the one born last and slowest, swims resolutely. Each stroke is a cry of life. Each kick is a declaration. She's alive and she wants to stay that way. Behind her, the beach falls silent. The sand returns to its stillness. The predators leave with their stomachs full. The sun has already set completely. In the vastness of the ocean, the few survivors swim, not knowing where they're headed. They instinctively move away, seeking refuge in floating algae and deeper waters. They're like drifting leaves, but with unstoppable energy. Those that do disappear into the foam, barely larger than a leaf, but with an unbreakable will. In the calmest areas of brackish water, where rivers embrace the sea and mangroves form labyrinths of intertwined roots, a giant moves gracefully. It's the West Indian manatee, a gentle creature that moves like a soft shadow among the warm currents. Its large, rounded body floats with an almost mystical calm, and its every movement seems in perfect harmony with the rhythm of the mangroves. The manatee's days pass without incident. Its world is one of calm waters, submerged plants, and profound silence. At dawn, it can be found grazing on the edges of estuaries, plucking sweet leaves with its grasping lips. Underwater, her breath turns into slow bubbles, and as she surfaces, her exhalation cuts through the silence like a brief sigh. Sometimes, for no apparent reason, the manatee stops. It remains motionless, as if listening to the heartbeat of the water or conversing with the landscape. Then, unhurriedly, it continues on its way, brushing its back against the stems of plants or caressing the dangling roots with its broad tail. The current guides him without opposition. He swims against it sometimes, but never urgently. Everything in his existence flows, like the river that welcomes him. Far out at sea, this long-lived sailor advances along another route. Her journey is different, but just as ancient. She swims alone for long days, guided by invisible paths that nature has etched into her body since birth. It lets itself be lulled by the ocean currents as it heads towards its feeding grounds, where underwater grasses stretch out like endless fields. It can live more than 80 years, and despite its peaceful appearance, its body is admirably resilient. Weighing more than 200 kilos, this tireless navigator travels thousands of kilometers across the ocean. Some migrations exceed 2,500 kilometers, crossing deep, open waters to return to the beaches they once knew as a young animal. Unlike the manatee, this one is quieter, more reserved. Its world is marked by the tides, the waves, and the reflection of the moon on the surface. She moves with determination, with a strength hidden behind her apparent fragility. Her shell protects her, but it also defines her. It is her home, her shield, and her story. And when the time comes, he returns. He's done it before, and he'll do it many more times. He may return every 2, 3, or even 5 years, always to the same beach where he once emerged from the sand. In Costa Rica, Tortuguero is one such sanctuary. There, her instinct drives her to repeat the cycle. On dry land, she becomes vulnerable. Her gait is clumsy but steady. She digs with effort. She lays her eggs with age-old precision. The sand holds her legacy. Then he moves away into the darkness of the sea, as if the beach were just a parenthesis in his oceanic life. Meanwhile, the manatee remains in its world of fresh and brackish waters. There, vegetation grows thick, and roots form natural tunnels through which it can easily glide. A young animal accompanies him. Together they move as one. The adult teaches without words. He guides, waits, repeats. The young animal observes, imitates, learns. The bond that unites them is strong, deep, and never breaks. The water is warm and serene. Leaves float on the surface. Gentle currents carry plant fragments that become food. In this silent realm, the manatee lives unhurriedly. Its days are filled with leisurely swimming and long rests. It can weigh more than 500 kilograms and reach 4 meters in length. But its gait is light, almost ethereal, among the submerged roots of the mangrove and the green channels of dense vegetation. Every day, the manatee travels through the areas where the plants that form part of its diet grow. Tender leaves, soft stems, floating roots. With his thick, sensitive lips, he carefully tears off pieces, chewing them calmly using his flat molars, while his youngster watches, imitating his every movement with increasing skill. But there are times when the world changes. Courtship season arrives. The female begins to release signals that travel through the water, imperceptible to others, but powerful to those of her species. During these days, several males approach her, forming a slow and steady underwater ballet. There's no fighting, just persistence. One after another, the suitors circle, swim, and accompany her. The female, calm and patient, decides when and with whom. Mating takes place between the clear waters and the shade of the mangroves. Then everything returns to normal. The males leave, and the female continues alone, carrying a new life inside her. For 13 months, her body transforms. She continues to eat, rest, and move through the canals, but she is no longer alone. Finally, in a quiet dawn, under a misty sky and amidst the thickets of floating plants, the baby is born. It emerges from its mother's body as a tiny replica of her, already formed, already alive. The mother propels him to the surface to take his first breath. It's his first encounter with the world, his first breath. The calf weighs about 30 kilograms and measures just over a meter. Its fur is soft, its movements clumsy, but it immediately begins to follow its mother, as if it had always known how to do so. For 2 years, he won't leave her side. He'll sleep beside her, feed beside her, learn every route and every hiding place. The mother teaches him where to find the freshest plants, how to move among the roots without getting trapped, when to dive and when to come up for air. They communicate through deep sounds and subtle movements. Sometimes a touch, a glance, a twitch of the tail is enough to say it all. The calf learns to breathe rhythmically, rising every 5 or 6 minutes, although it will soon be able to hold it for longer, up to 20 minutes underwater without difficulty. Learn to identify warm spots when the waters turn cold, and to rest floating unseen, hidden under submerged branches or next to walls of thick vegetation. In their world, time doesn't run. Everything repeats itself calmly. The seasons change, the water level rises and falls, but the manatees remain, gently adapting. Sometimes they meet others. They share space without conflict, observe each other, touch each other, and then each goes their own way. The baby, growing stronger, begins to explore on its own. It wanders a few meters, tries new flavors, and seeks its own path. But it always returns. It knows its mother is waiting for it, and she patiently repeats the same guiding gestures over and over again, tirelessly. When it rains, the water darkens and the current becomes swifter. At those moments, mother and child take shelter together under the thick roots of a submerged tree. They remain still, feeling the water rush around them. Everything they need is there: food, shelter, companionship. Days pass. The baby is no longer so small. His movements are more confident, his decisions firmer. His mother watches him from a distance, as if recognizing that her teaching has taken root. There are no words, no goodbyes, only a silent understanding. Soon he will go his own way. But there are still moments together. At dawn, when the first rays of light pierce the surface and dance on the water's floor, mother and son swim side by side in perfect sync. They eat together, rest together, and glide soundlessly through the mangrove passageways. The young manatee remembers every place his mother showed him, every plant she taught him to recognize, every hiding place that served as a refuge. He holds in his body the knowledge of generations, and in his memory the constant presence of the one who cared for him from the very beginning. And when he finally moves away, when his explorations take him to new waters, he won't be alone. He'll carry with him the lessons he was taught without haste or imposition. He'll learn to live, and perhaps one day he'll teach his young the same way. Meanwhile, the manatee remains in its world of fresh and brackish waters. There, the vegetation grows thick and the roots form natural tunnels through which it glides easily. A calf accompanies it. Together they move as one. The adult teaches without words. It guides, waits, repeats. The calf observes, imitates, learns. The bond that unites them is strong, deep, and never breaks. Both manatee and turtle inhabit different worlds, but their destinies share a common essence: journey, endurance, permanence. One travels the riverbeds in search of food and shade. The other, the oceans, follows migration routes, always returning to the point of origin. Both know how to survive in silence. Both avoid conflict, noise, and speed. When the green turtle rests on the seabed on a bed of warm sand, it lets the water cover it like a blanket. In between sleep, its body slowly rises to the surface to take a breath. Then she descends again, as if floating between two worlds. The current envelops her. Time doesn't matter. Only the rhythm of the sea. On another shore, the manatee slowly chews on some soft leaves. Its gaze is calm, unhurried, and untroubled. Its body, large but light in the water, adapts to every turn of the channel. It approaches the mangroves where the water is warmer, where the roots offer food and shelter. Sometimes you can see it spin in circles as if playing, as if the world had no other urgency than to move to the rhythm of its fins. At some point during the day, they both breathe at the same time. One in the middle of the ocean, the other between the mangrove channels. And although their worlds don't intersect, they share a truth. Life doesn't need noise to be powerful. They exist without asking for anything, without changing the environment, without upsetting the balance. They are part of the whole. On full moon nights, the sea becomes a mirror, and the marine reptile slowly emerges. It breathes, observes, and dives. Far away in a canal surrounded by dense vegetation, the manatee also surfaces. It pauses, it exhales gently, then it dives back under. Neither knows about the other, but both continue day after day, building an existence as old as time itself. In Costa Rica, where the jungle meets the sea, where rivers forge secret paths and the wind carries stories on its waves, the Antillean manatee and the green sea turtle continue their journey. Without witnesses, without needing to be seen, just them, the water, and life.